It was a mission for the tough. A real test of endurance and skill. 10 young hikers, mostly students from the Ural Polytechnical Institute, set out into the heart of the Russian wilderness. Their leader was Dyatlov, an experienced mountaineer with a fire in his belly. They were a tight-knit group, full of life and ready for a challenge. Their goal was Otorten, a mountain whose name in the local Muncie language means "don't go there." A stark warning, perhaps. But these were seasoned adventurers, not easily spooked. They knew the risks. They understood the unforgiving nature of the Ural Mountains in the dead of winter. This was their element, a place where survival is earned, not given. The journey began in late January 1959. Spirits were high. Photographs from their recovered cameras show smiling faces, camaraderie, and the raw, stunning beauty of the snow-covered landscape. They were young, strong, and prepared for the brutal cold. Their equipment was standard for the time, but they had the knowledge to make it work. They were trekking through a desolate, unforgiving part of the world, miles from any civilization. Out here, you rely on your wits, your training, and the person next to you. One member, Yuri Yudin, was forced to turn back early due to illness. A twist of fate that would save his life and leave him haunted for decades. The team pushed onward, deeper into the icy expanse. They were making good time, documenting their progress in a shared diary. The entries speak of a difficult but successful trek, filled with the usual challenges of a winter expedition. They built fires, sang songs, and navigated through deep snow and biting winds. There was no sign of distress, no hint of the horror that was to come. They were simply a group of friends on the adventure of a lifetime. The mountain they were on, Kolatsiakl, had another ominous name in the local tongue. Dead Mountain, a place steeped in folklore and dark legends. On February 1st, they set up their final camp. They pitched their tent on the exposed eastern slope of Kolatsiakl, a decision that has puzzled experts ever since. Standard procedure would have been to descend into the tree line for shelter from the elements. Why did they stop there? Were they exhausted? Did they make a critical error in judgment? Or did something force them to make a stand in that desolate spot? The last entry in their diary was made. The sun went down. A brutal, Siberian darkness fell over the mountain, and with it, a mystery that would endure for generations. Alone in the wilderness, their final battle was about to begin. Something went terribly wrong that night. In the crushing silence of the frozen wilderness, a sudden, inexplicable panic erupted inside the tent. We don't know what caused it. A sound? A light? A presence? Whatever it was, it drove these experienced hikers into a state of pure primal fear. The evidence left behind paints a chilling picture of chaos. The tent, their only shield against the lethal sub-zero temperatures, was not unzipped from the entrance. It was sliced open from the inside. They were so desperate to get out, they used knives to slash their way into the unforgiving night. Imagine the sheer terror that must have gripped them. To abandon your only shelter in a blizzard, you must be running from something far more terrifying than the storm itself. They scrambled out of the shredded canvas, a chaotic exodus into a world of wind and snow. Most of them were barefoot or wearing only socks. Some were only in their undergarments. They left behind their boots, their warm coats, their survival gear, everything. In a survival situation, your gear is your life. To leave it all behind is an act of absolute desperation. It's a move that goes against every instinct, every bit of training they had. They fled down the steep slope, away from the relative safety of their camp. Why down? The forest line was nearly a mile away, a desperate run through waist-deep snow in the dark. It makes no sense. If it was an avalanche, the natural instinct is to scatter sideways, not run directly downhill in its potential path. But they ran, stumbling and falling, as if pursued by an unseen force. The tracks they left in the snow were orderly at first, suggesting they walked away calmly, but then the pattern became scattered, confused. They were a group in disarray, consumed by a fear we can only imagine. This wasn't a simple case of getting lost or succumbing to the cold. This was a frantic, panicked flight for their lives. The evidence screams it. What could possibly drive 9 seasoned mountaineers to such madness? What horror unfolded on that remote slope that made a freezing death in the woods seem like the better option? They were running from the tent, but what were they running towards? The answers were not in the camp. They lay scattered down the mountain, waiting to be found. Each discovery adding another layer to the terrifying enigma of Dyatlov Pass. When the search party finally reached the abandoned camp weeks later, the scene was baffling. The tent was collapsed and torn, half buried in snow. Inside, their belongings were neatly arranged. Boots lined up, food supplies untouched, maps laid out. It was as if the hikers had been in the middle of preparing for the night when they suddenly vanished. The discovery of the tent, slashed open from the inside, was the first sign that this was no ordinary accident. It was the beginning of a grim and perplexing puzzle. The searchers followed the footprints leading down the slope, a trail of terror frozen in time. The first 2 bodies were found nearly a mile away, at the edge of the forest. They lay by the remains of a small, hastily built fire under a large cedar tree. They were barefoot and dressed only in their underwear. The branches on the cedar tree were broken up to 5 meters high, suggesting someone had desperately tried to climb it. Perhaps they were looking for the camp, or perhaps they were trying to escape something on the ground. 3 more bodies, including that of Igor Dyatlov, were found between the cedar tree and the camp, seemingly frozen, in the act of trying to return to the tent. It was a grim sight, but the mystery only deepened from there. 2 long months passed before the remaining 4 hikers were discovered. They were found buried under more than 10 feet of snow in a ravine, a short distance from the cedar tree. And it was these bodies that held the most disturbing clues of all. One man had a fractured skull, another had suffered massive chest trauma, injuries so severe they were comparable to the force of a car crash. Yet, strangely, there were no external wounds, no soft tissue damage. It was as if they had been crushed by an immense, invisible pressure. The most bizarre findings were with the final 2 victims. One of the women was missing her tongue, eyes, and part of her lips. The other was missing her eyeballs. Some of the clothing worn by these last 4 hikers was found to be radioactive, though only at low levels. What could have caused such horrific, selective injuries? How does a person suffer internal trauma without a single external cut or bruise? The official cause of death for most was hypothermia, but for the final 4, it was listed as compelling natural force. A vague, unsettling conclusion for a case filled with such violent and inexplicable details. The official investigation closed, but the questions remained, echoing through the decades. The initial theory was a simple avalanche. It would explain the flight from the tent, but the evidence doesn't quite fit. Investigators found no signs of a snowslide. The tent itself was partially standing, and items left nearby were undisturbed. The hikers' tracks were visible. An avalanche powerful enough to cause the internal injuries they suffered would have swept everything away. And it doesn't explain why they ran a mile downhill instead of moving sideways out of the slide path, as their training would have dictated. With the conventional explanations falling short, wilder theories began to take root. The area was known for secret Soviet weapons testing. Could the hikers have accidentally stumbled upon a military exercise? This could explain the radioactivity on their clothes and the powerful, concussive injuries. Some locals reported seeing strange orange spheres of light in the sky around the time of the incident. This led to speculation about UFOs and extraterrestrial involvement. The missing soft tissues on one victim fueled ideas of an encounter with a creature not of this world, or even a local cryptid like the Russian Yeti. Other theories point to something more human, but no less sinister. Could they have been attacked by local Mansi tribespeople for trespassing on sacred land? This was quickly dismissed by investigators. The Mansi were known to be peaceful, and the nature of the injuries didn't match any known weapon. What about infighting within the group? Again, unlikely. Their diaries and photos show a united, friendly team. Every logical path seems to lead to a dead end, leaving only the strange and the supernatural. The mystery is a perfect storm of conflicting clues and unanswered questions. Today, on January 13th, 2026, the Dyatlov Pass incident remains one of the greatest unsolved mysteries of the 20th century. The case was briefly reopened in 2019, with Russian officials concluding an avalanche was the most likely cause. But their explanation has failed to satisfy the countless researchers, investigators, and family members who have dedicated their lives to finding the truth. The mountain holds its secrets close. Whatever happened that night, it was powerful enough to turn 9 experienced hikers into panicked victims, leaving behind a chilling legacy that continues to baffle and terrify us all. The dead mountain is still keeping its silence.